Stay focused, man.
I'm just saying.
Focus, man.
We good.
I want us to do the right thing for this client.
Family, welcome to the RealT Podcast. On this next episode, I'm Kenny Donnell. This is my wife, Tanika Donnell.
Hey,
and we want to thank the Fosters for joining us today. Woo! Oh my gosh.
This is going to be a treat.
This is going to be a treat. You know, a lot of times we'll get people in the seat and they're great conversations.
Right.
But there's no conversation like when you get a husband and wife working together.
That's when we have our best conversations.
That's when we have our best conversations. We get to air out all. It's like this is counseling.
Yeah.
This is counseling right now. So this ain't. We're not gonna talk about business. We're gonna talk counseling. Yeah.
Y'all can relate, I'm sure.
But before, I know you can relate, Jimmy. So before we get into that, why don't you guys take a moment to introduce yourselves, who you're with, what you do, and how long you've been doing it.
Right. Well, we're Jimmy and Felicia Foster. We've been married for 28 years.
Hashtag goals.
Yes. 28 years, and just over 20 of those years working together in some capacity. Okay. So, yeah, there's stories on how that we're with Connectors Lending Group, powered by Lifetime Mortgage. Mm-hmm. Been in the mortgage and real estate business now going on 21 years?
Yeah.
21.
Over 20 years.
Yeah, over 20 years, so a long time now. So we're just people, hey, they say real estate's like the mafia. Once you get in, you can't get out.
You can't get out. I love it.
How did y'all find y'all way to real estate? What was before real estate? Can you remember before real estate?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah.
Before real estate, well, Jimmy and I are transplants to Texas. Okay. From Louisiana. Okay. So we moved here in 2001 from the New Orleans area. Okay.
I hear that little noise. It's a little twang. Still got it.
So we moved here almost sight unseen. Like some friends were like, y'all gotta come to Dallas. It's really popping. Right. You know, you gotta come here, be successful. And we're like, okay.
Yeah, use the term. You could write your own ticket.
Yeah. Okay. So we did that. We had a house in New Orleans, in the New Orleans area, and really we hadn't even sold our house. We just put a stake in the yard for sale with the realtor. Packed up, moved here, and the crazy thing is that we moved here 10 days after 9/11. Really? So the economy kind of plummeted for a moment before things kind of stabilized. So when we moved here, only Jimmy had a job, and he was working with Enterprise. Okay. And so I was unemployed and on the computer, every day putting in applications. So eventually got into, Jimmy started with Syntex, right? Back in the day with Syntex. Yes. And I was with First American Real Estate. Wonderful. Yeah. So that just kind of gave us that taste of real estate and getting into it, and that was really it just took off from there.
Came in at the peak of high rates, high costs in 2001. So that was my introduction to the lending.
So it's like old times now, right?
Yes. This is very much like, we're like, I don't know what y'all complaining about. When we bought our house, it was 7%.
Exactly. Right.
7.6.
7.6. And that was our discount.
And that was our discount rate working for the lender.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, we were giving out 8 and 8 1/4 back then. So it's like, we're now back to that, and it's like, to me, it's like, well, this is where I started.
Yeah, kind of normal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did y'all decide to do this partnership together? How did that come about?
Well, like Jimmy said, I guess it was just always natural. Jimmy and I were high school sweethearts, so we've just always been, looking for something together. We just merged very well, I guess. So in a lot of things that we did, it was just always a team. We were just always doing things together. Natural, yeah, in whatever it was. So at first, when I started at First American and he was at Syntex, eventually, after I had the second baby, and he had started slightly originating on his own. And we had friends that were becoming originators as well. And they're like, we need a processor. And I'm like, I can do that.
Hello.
So that's pretty much where it started again. But our first take really on really working together was in New Orleans at a bookstore.
Okay.
Yeah, we were I started off working at this new bookstore in the area. They sold college books off campus.
Mm-hmm.
And I started there, and Jimmy would come in and kind of work part-time a little bit, and the owners really liked us, and they were like, man, we like you guys together. And we're like, really? Oh, okay. So then it became like I became a manager, then Jimmy became a manager, then Jimmy became my boss. I was like, your family or anything. So yeah, but that was still just, working together, and we just vibed really well.
So let me ask y'all this. Make sure you don't get in trouble, Jimmy, when you answer this question. All right. So as you all are navigating this marriage and business together, right? And there's people who watch the podcast and they're trying to figure that synergy out with their spouses as well. How did you land on who was going to be responsible for what and what role each person played?
Yeah. That's where the work comes in. Over time, it got a little bit easier. In the beginning, like she said, we started off at college bookstores. Was guess you could say a mom and pop shop to start, and they started growing and expanding, so they opened multiple store locations. So Felicia was at the initial store location in the New Orleans area, then they opened up 2 more, and I went to one of them. Then eventually, one was small enough to where I was able to run that with their crew pretty easy, and they opened a second one. So Jimmy, you have those 2, and Felicia have this one. Then it became, all right, Jimmy, you just spot check all 3 of them, and that's where the kind of her boss kicked in. So, it became constant conversations to be able to make sure you have to separate the 2.
Yeah.
Because
they're both leaders,
right.
So, yeah.
I think she's a little bit more red than me in that, so her snap comes a little bit more than mine. So, sometimes, it's always I guess a balanced conversation of, okay, watch how you speak to me here and there. Like, hey, I can't go into hubby mode versus coworker mode.
Yeah.
And, and then, when we get off and leave, okay, work is left. We're now in the car heading home. We're now Jimmy and Felicia, husband and wife, not Jimmy and Felicia, co-workers. And so, that balance, it went up and down some days.
Yeah.
Some days it's, it is a tough line. Hey, you have a little argument at home, and I don't feel like talking to you right now. We got to get in the car, and I'm not talking to you in the car. We get to the office. I still don't feel like talking to you until about midday.
Right.
Like, okay, I got to check with her on this. You're looking at work now, and it's like, now I have to communicate with her and whatnot, and I can't call her with the attitude. We're in work mode now.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, a lot of times work changed whatever it is we bickered about before, because we had to now communicate for the benefit of business.
Yeah.
And by the time we were done communicating with business throughout the day, by the time we're getting off, we couldn't even remember what was the situation.
I think a lot of it just natural, though. You find your natural groove and where you can thrive. And I think that's where it is. I'll tell anybody, Jimmy's an exceptional leader, like as far as like project management, that is his thing, and I'm very good at role playing, and finding my role and figuring out and being able to fill in the gaps. That's me. I'm like that gap filler. So Jimmy can see the overall thing. I think and he can see details too, but I think I can pinpoint details.
He's the executor of those details.
Yeah.
So you guys are operating in your strengths.
Pretty much.
And therefore giving balance to the relationship on and kind of off
Mm-hmm.
business-wise.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to know, Kenny and I don't drive to work together usually.
That's our time, you know. Depending on how the conversation went, it's either Kirk Franklin or Tupac.
Right.
So you know, it just depends on how the day needs to get started.
But how do you, as you all are transitioning to your own business, okay, how do you cut it off? I don't know how you can cut it off, because a lot of times we continue to infuse in and out, and it's very challenging to say, like you said, you got in the car and now it's home. Like, we still talk about stuff at home. So how, I'm interested to know how you all transition and do that, or does it, is it like sometimes they'll say we can't talk about work till 8 a.m. And I get that, but we're still at home talking about work.
Yes.
So how do you all do it?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know if there's really a such thing as a balance. Be honest with you, because that exact thing that you just said happens. Sometimes for me, I can't turn it off because I'm thinking about all kinds of things and going at it. And you know, I guess for me, I can figure it out when I'm going, and she's just.
And I'm looking like,
you know.
I won't talk about that.
Yeah, you know, she.
And I have a faster turn off than Jimmy. Yeah. Oh, Jimmy will. Those wheels will turn all the time. And for me, I'm like, shut it down.
Yeah.
We're not doing this. You know, this is outside of work now. We can't keep doing this because you just have to. And it came like when we came back to originating, because there's a story when after the whole 07, 08 crash, we went into servicing. And then when we came back to originations in 2014, it was like grind mode. Like there was almost no off, you know, for a few years. And it was just grind. And then all of a sudden, when he was still on the phone on Sundays at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, we can't do this. No. And I sat him down and said, we have to have boundaries. I can understand that, you know, we're growing a business, we're trying to do this, and we're, you know, doing all that, but we got to have some downtime.
And you all have 2 kids?
Yes.
And so how did the kids, we call it counterbalance, because there's no balance. That's a facade. We counterbalance. Sometimes you get a chance to do things with the family. Sometimes they're, you know, kids are with you at work. How did you all manage to balance that with the 2 kids that you have? Were they infused in your work at some times, or?
Yes.
Sometimes with the younger, with our son, because he was homeschooled for
homeschool. You?
Well, virtual.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was like, what?
Virtual school for 3 years. For 3 years, he was in virtual school, so he was in the business.
He came to the office daily.
Yes. So with him, yes. Our daughter, she got infused, but not until she was an adult. You know.
Are either of them in the business?
Not anymore.
No,
Our daughter was. She was our loan officer assistant for a while. For a while. So it's like, you know what? You need to follow your passion.
We understand.
And we respect that, you know. So no, she's not anymore. Our son, he's a new graduate. Newly graduated, I should say. So he's still finding his footing. He wants to do real estate and possibly lending, but we're not pushing it.
Well, you know, you can call me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all already know that. Okay.
We tried to talk to our daughter about it.
Anytime, yeah.
You know, I think he may be the one that to take to it.
He's the risk taker.
Yeah.
She's not a risk taker. She's very very laid back and casual. But him, he's the risk taker.
She wants life structure.
Yeah.
I think,
He's that Monopoly guy, like I'm rolling the dice. He's that kid. So we gotta watch him a little bit. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
As you all are growing your business, right? So it's one thing for people to say, hey, I want a business, or I want to start a business, I want to grow a business. Yeah. It's another thing to take the leap to do it, right? And all the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah.
So how did you all bet on yourself? How did you believe enough that you were like, you know what? We're going to bet on us. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to step out there and we're going to take it on.
mean, it just got to a point where you're just like fed up and you're like, it's just a deep belief that just finally hits you. Like, I know what I'm doing. I can do this. I see other people do it. If I'm working a job, I'm doing it for someone else's business. Why can't I do it for myself?
Yeah.
And it just finally hit us to go out on our own. And things kind of fell into place. We were already heading into that mental direction. Work in corporate America. We were sick of corporate America, tired of everything that goes along with it. We had been self-employed before. Fortunately, the economy put us into the workplace, and it was meant to be temporary. Just was temporary a long time until we got fed up enough of. We're sick of everyone controlling every aspect of what we felt our lives, whether it was our time with our family, how and when we can take off, controlling our income.
Our earnings, yeah.
Yeah, it was just all those things, and it was just like, you know what? We've saved, we built up, we've recovered. Why not? What do we have to lose? Job wasn't guaranteed. We witnessed layoffs.
I was a part of one that they pulled back.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Yeah. She was part of a layoff that she was coming to terms with and ready to start her own thing. Then they pulled back the layoff, and that was her breaking point. Actually, getting called back, called back to work. She was like, "I'm ready to go. Why do y'all want me? Let me go." So. So it pretty much in the midst of her situation, and then I left, went do some contract work, and that's where that extra comfort came in. Go and do some contract work. It was just, hey, it was temporary. I had a certain period. You're going to earn about this much, and after that is either get another contract or you got to figure it out. And just doing that and coming back from that, we just realized, okay, we have X amount of money saved. We can make it this long without a dime coming in, and so let's go for it. I feel we're going to make some money well before this ends.
Sure.
And we just did it. There was some sleepless days, and nights, more so for me. My wife doesn't worry about anything.
I have faith.
I mean, 10, 11 o'clock, she's like, all right, good night. Turn over and go to sleep. I'm looking up at the ceiling, thinking about everything. Okay, I got to get some business by this time, so income will come in by this time. And, I'm thinking about all of that stuff, and she just at peace. By the next morning, I'm laying out my ideas, and that's just how it went. And you just have to have the guts to trust yourself that you have the abilities to do what you really always do. If you're a good worker and you work in corporate and you're good, you're capable of doing this on your own. That's just it. And Lord blessed us.
Now, Jimmy, you make that sound so easy.
Talk about some of the pitfalls.
You make that sound so easy.
Everybody's
Jimmy.
doing it, right?
I said there was some sleepless.
Jimmy, like, you can just do it. Like, you made that sound so easy, Jimmy.
That was the first confidence. But yeah,
when you go to bed at night and wake up and realize, okay, so no pay coming in this Friday. What I have to do today?
Yes. Yeah.
And that becomes the premise of each and every day.
Yeah. It was a lot about game planning and execution. Execution is key. You can have all the plans in the world, but if you don't execute, shit don't make a difference, So
how did you all find that motivation, right? So that internal belief is one thing. The motivation then to now go and execute, right? Even though you don't get immediate gratification,
right?
Yeah.
Right? You have to trust that in what you're executing is going to ultimately hit that return. How did you find that internal motivation to believe in what you were doing day in, day out?
We had a house, we had cars, we had kids. That's enough motivation.
That didn't stop.
That was the driver. I mean, you don't want these kids looking at you and like, okay, what we gonna eat today?
Yeah, they had no clue.
clue.
We always tell them the stories now that they're older where, they had no clue where it's like, hey, we stripped down to internet over, what is that, voice over internet phone, and stripping everything down to bare minimums, just to be able to make it. And part of the sacrifices now that we think back, we had 2 vehicles with notes. We had corporate income. Hey, I went to the dealership, got rid of one vehicle, bought a car cash from a relative. Our kids didn't think any of that. It's like
They don't know anything about the sacrifice, do they?
Yeah. It was the sacrifices made were those things, just cutting down to bare minimums, getting rid of a couple of the luxuries. At that time, the Suburban was the big thing. I had my Suburban. I put my fancy wheels on it, everything else, because I was churning and burning. I got rid of that and went down to this green Grand Am, this Hunter Green Grand Am, and that was a sacrifice. I did not want to be seen in that car, but it's like I had to make that step back for us to be able to succeed. And the Lord blessed us to where we went through. Hey, it was tight. You're constantly making transfers from savings and 401ks and investment, which I hated because it's like. But I knew it was going to be a part of it. So you're just doing the math of, okay, I'm transferring this month. It's going to cover us for another month. I need to get something coming in. And just, that was the daily motivation. I wanted better for my wife, for my kids. So that kept me going. And, thankfully, I was blessed to have a wife that supported me, pushed, and she was right there. At some points, kicking and screaming, but she was still there. Right? She was still there, because when we went back out on our second time of originating, she didn't come as the processor. She came as one of my loan officers. And that was the kicking and screaming. She did not want to do the loan side. And it's like, hey, I just need you here. And this is what it's going to take for us to do it. And, it started off slow, and then it just picked up and blasted off, and then we were just trying to keep up at that point.
See, this is the reality of not just relationship, right? But life, right? And betting on oneself. A lot of times we get that after effect where we see the championship, we see the win, we see the awards, the recognition, all those things.
Nobody talks about the backstory.
Yeah, you don't get to see the backstory, which is one of the beautiful things about social media today is you can tell your own story, right? You can tell your story, you can let people in to the realities of, you see this, but here is some steps. Well, they don't always get the full picture, right? Because we only got so much time, but they at least get a glimpse into the challenges you're feeling, the struggles you're dealing with, the ups and downs is normal.
Yes.
It's normal.
And it's all part of the process.
It is.
It's a part of it. And it's a constant cycle. Business cycles, up and down cycles, you have to prepare for, plan for, and know what to expect of how it goes. And the real estate industry is waves. There are going to be its up periods and there's going to be its down periods. We've now have done this long enough. We've seen the huge waves.
You've rode the roller coaster, right?
Things like that. So, we were, preparing ourselves. Hey, when the wave was high, there's some things we were able to do and whatnot. But at the same time, plan and prepare for, okay, when that wave slows down, we have to be prepared where, whether it's spending and luxuries and things we're able to do that, okay, curb it a little bit because we have to plan for this time period. Last quarters of the year, we all know sometimes you finish out the year strong and sometimes you don't. Sometimes everybody's like, hey, I'm in Thanksgiving through Christmas mode and New Year's and whatever you've done before Thanksgiving, you're gonna ride that till just after New Year's and coming in. But you start to learn and understand your business cycles, and that's how you plan accordingly. And you just try to structure all your time around it. But for a relationship part, we'd tell anybody, you have to keep your relationship strong, plan time with each other, build that strength, because when you work together in business, there's going to be headbutts no matter what. No matter what. And
you said that a little strong.
Well, I can relate to what he just said.
I don't understand why.
It's hard. Somebody has to be willing to concede every now and then. You both can't win. So it's like, I had to learn that over time, sometimes, okay, Jim, you ain't gonna win this one. Don't even try, just let it go. And sometimes that's my fight and I have to do it. And I try to tell her sometimes she gotta give in, but
I just told him yesterday. I said, "Man, I sure wish we had that commercial that shows the playback."
Flag on the play.
He goes, "No, that's not what you said."
Rewind.
Yeah.
That we can definitely relate. We can relate because I'll be throwing the flag on Tanika all the time.
Yeah.
We
And then when we see the replay, we already know.
You mentioned the ability to, because of how long you all have been doing this in this space and seeing the differences in rates and working people through that. So now you're getting the clients who are seeing now, maybe they were on the sideline at the 2%, 3%, 4%, and they're like, okay, now we're ready. Well, it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
How are you helping them? Because maybe they didn't see, and obviously they weren't in the industry then, that this is a normal sort of period we're in. How do you help your clients come to the reality of that?
It's definitely taking a lot more coaching, educating, it's spending a lot more time with the clients than we've had to do in quite a while. When I came into the industry in the early 2000s, that was part of, the business. Rates, costs, everything was inflated like it is today. So back then you had to really build time with the client, speak, explain everything. Then we got into I almost want to say a fast food period where it just, hey, you're not getting as in depth. People didn't want to get 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 in and educate people to the fullest, because purchasing a home is the biggest investment you will ever make. For the life of me, people who didn't want to hear all those details, I couldn't understand for the life of me, but they were just those clients and people. Now,
Everybody.
Tell me again, one more time.
because it's like, now we have to get into, the anatomy of a loan, the anatomy of a loan payment, what makes up a loan payment. For some people, why is it so high? Hey, it's not just the loan portion. There's property taxes, homeowners insurance. Those things are going up too. And so now that's factoring in, and for some people, it's now educating them on what's going on with the economy, where we at, what's the cost of everything. We do multi-state lending, so in every state, there's some little nuances, difference of what's affecting everybody everywhere else. Here in the DFW area, we've had massive home inflation. And so now you're educating just on that part by itself. Now we're bringing in insurance is going up, so now you're explaining that. And with these higher values come higher property taxes. So you're taking three things that have all inflated, and here's what these numbers now look like. And you now have to back into how does your income fit with these numbers. And the reality of it is people are having to now reassess what's going to be the most important thing to them. And, we're starting to see more of a shift that's going towards, hey, eliminate debt, because you're going to have to take on more house payment so you can afford the housing that you want. And possibly people, parents who used to talk about, our kids, hey, after you graduate, you have X amount of weeks at home, and it's military college, and get out and don't come back. Well, they're coming back.
Yeah. And they're there to stay for a minute.
Yes.
They're going to stay. They're going to stay for a minute. Who knows how long? So now with that, families are having to look at the overall expense of things, and coming together is starting to make a lot more sense, a lot more logic to people. And it's the true reality if you're living in certain regions and areas that is going to take that. If you don't have the money, it's going to have to be buying in numbers. And it's just, right now it's education. And my time on the phone is now growing. So that's the other side of it now, where it's like some clients feel like it's harder to reach me because, well, now I'm on the phone instead of 10, 15 minutes a client. I'm on the phone for 45 minutes per client. you know, some up to an hour, because this is how much it's going to take to go through your finances, educate you of where you are and what the market is yielding you to be able to buy and what that now looks like. Because people are having to make decisions of where I wanted to go, I can't go. Here are the options that I can go to, and you may have to come to terms with it, or
Well,
else.
and the goal is not to discourage people.
Of course
Yeah.
not.
You know, because this is my consistent line with people. A delay is not a denial.
There you go.
And also, your first house doesn't have to be your last house.
Yes.
You know, you have the generation that we're in. People want to, they want to run before they walk, and you gotta be like, okay, I can understand your goals and ambitions, and I definitely want to, support that. But the reality of it is, this is probably your best landing, because I tell people, I don't want you to be house poor. When Jimmy and I our goal is not to just get people in a house. Our goal is to have you successful long term, and you don't want to be house poor.
And explain house poor for those that
May not
we
know
understand
that
what you mean by house poor. What for someone who's like, well, house poor, and they're gonna be Googling like house poor.
That means that's the only thing you can pay. You can only pay the house, and and that's it. Like, you're so focused on paying the house, you can't live. And nowadays everybody want to live their best life.
Yes.
Well, we want you to live your best life and be a successful homeowner. So how do you do that? Prioritize, manage your budget. Really know what you can do. Don't, and I hate to tell people don't live above your means, but don't live above your means, because those things, do kind of come back. So it's just me really managing your budget, knowing what you really can do. I mean, like a few years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we had a young lady in Louisiana, and she's a single mom, and that's our heart, because our moms were, single moms. So it's like, we don't want to see you struggle, So she was like, I can only afford this amount. And I'm like, these are the numbers. That's what we have to work within. And she was a little discouraged, but man, she found a house. She found a house, and I mean, it was like the best house for her, and the school was across the street for her younger kids. So it was just the best opportunity. And to speak to her even years later, and she's like, oh my gosh, Miss Felicia, I just love my house. I'm so glad that I made that decision and I didn't get discouraged. She said, although I was discouraged, she said, I'm glad that you told me, no, there's a house for you. Yes. And so, those are the things that we like to, see. And those are the things that makes me have, that makes me feel good about what I'm doing. Because some days you're like, why am I doing this? But then there are those days where it's like, okay, I see where, this is why we're doing this.
And I appreciate partnering with teams like yours, because lots of people they have a vision, but they're not there yet. But you all take the time to assess their current credit situation, give them a strategic game plan, and we're all working with them as a team to get them across the finish line.
Yes.
So I appreciate you guys for doing that, because I've seen you do it with some of my clients too. So it makes an impact so that they can become homeowners and stop making somebody else rich.
Yes. I mean, we kind of did that ourselves.
Yeah.
When we sold our house, and my cousin sold her house, and she moved in with us for just under 2 years, because she had some real estate goals she wanted to do. So that equity that was just sitting there, after she had owned her house for 10 years, I mean, she was able to capitalize on that, buy a small rental property, and then now go out, and she's moved back to Louisiana, but now she has her own, home there again.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. So, those are the goals that we have to, at least kind of think about. Like you said, I might be here now, but I can level up later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's part of the education process is teaching clients. It's like, where you are now, you're not going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now. And, it's a building block, because, we do have those generation of buyers who they see the glitz and glamours through whether it's TV, social media.
Yes.
I call it HGTV, and they want all of that out the blocks. And it's like, hey, it's all building blocks. We'll tell people we bought our first house at 22.
Mm-hmm.
We were like babies, at getting a home. And no one educated us on the process at that time, but no one told us we couldn't.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it. But here we are. What is this? 5 houses later.
5 houses later.
It's 5 houses later, but each was a stack on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, we tell our kids, now we always tell them that they're spoiled because, their lifestyle, they benefited from the lifestyles we created for ourselves. And, to understand, hey, you can't just jump into where we're at. This was a gradual build for us. And sometimes that is part of education, getting clients to be able to see how you can build and how that can grow and what that can turn into. And is not saying you're settling or anything like that. It's like you're executing a plan, and it's taken back. I like when you mentioned what the numbers look like today, and and that's a testament to your professionalism and where you are, because sometimes we get those clients where they don't have agents who are educated in the market. So now I'm dealing with they were referred to me, and hey, this person didn't know what the market was, and now I'm explaining to this one, and it's like they've already went pick out a house and came to me, and it's like, your income translates out to this purchase price, and you're looking at something, I say 2 neighborhoods over. And it's like, okay, we got to come back to this unless you can do this, this, and this. And it's not necessarily saying, no, you just can't do this. It's here's where you are. If you want to get here, here's what it's going to take.
Exactly.
And it puts it back into their court. It's just educating and showing options. That's how I like to view my job. I tell people, I'm not a salesman. I don't sell loans. I'm not a fast talker. I'm a slow talking country boy. So if you're looking for fast tongue and everything else, I'm going to get tongue tied and you'll pick it up. That's just not me. I'm going to educate you, show you your options, and let you pick the options that are best for you in your situation. And that's how it should be. It's a home purchase. It's your biggest decision you're ever going to make. You should be aware of the decision you're making.
Do you find that people are open to that nowadays? So we mentioned it earlier. You guys mentioned it earlier. After coming through the gangbuster of get pretty much anything you want, and you can jump out there and you can get a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house and 2,000, 3,000. Like you can just look like you balling out of control, right? And now you have to be more disciplined. You have to come back down to what can you really realistically afford, and your dream may not line up with that in this moment. Right. But we're just deferring because we're going to stepping stone this thing. Are you finding that people are open to that conversation?
Yes and no.
Yes, and I would say
yes and no. And honestly, this economy has not changed that. We've always had people who, wanted to do bigger and better than what they really could. So this is not, I won't say that it's not new for us, but it is taking a little bit more time, for people. We just have those people who are like, absolutely not. I'm not accepting that, and it's like, I wish you the best. That's all that I can say, but you do have those people like, wow, I'm so glad that I called because I didn't know that. I didn't understand that, because you still just have loan officers or lenders that just don't want to take the time. And that's because they didn't come in. They haven't been in this industry long enough, and they didn't come in when it was this type of industry, so they don't know how to nurture people and prepare people and really give them, the benefits of, because there are sometimes benefits of where people are, things, Jimmy already said it, there's cycles, so even if where you're not where you want to be right now, doesn't mean that when the market changes that you can't capitalize on that. So I tell people to get ready, be ready so you don't have to get ready, so work on where you want to be So when things do change, you're ready to jump on it, So those are just the things. So yes and no, we have those people who are open, but we have more people who are than who aren't.
We're seeing the renewing of conversations. And what I mean by that is now it's the assumable loan product, right? Right. We're seeing all these things. And for a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, that's new. Like, yeah, that's not new, right? Right. And so a lot of these products now are getting renewed. What are you all's thoughts about some of the things that are coming back online that were not previously?
Well, for me, being in it this long, it was funny to me because sometimes I was getting the calls, from borrowers and borrowers and borrowers and borrowers and borrowers and borrowers and by now. It's always been, it has always been here, it never left. It just wasn't optimal markets for it to be used.
Yeah.
So now we're coming back. We're now at a time where certain products never ever went away. It just now, hey, you're just waking it up. It's been there and having to explain how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like dusting off the old war chest. Because there were some things, I learned, did, offered, and put it to sleep. Adjustable rate loans, all of those things. I came into the industry in the ARM world. And I'd be the first to tell clients, look, in 2001, when I came in, my average refinance was high 7s, low 8s, 2 and 3 year adjustable rate loans at 3 to 5 points. And no one was batting an eye. That was just customary.
Yeah.
So as this market, as inflation has come in, and now the cost of loans and everything has come in, for me, it was just quickly dusting off and getting back to what I knew from the get-go and just having to explain, what, the $300,000 purchase. What's this $9,000 in points? What's points? And having to explain what that is. And so, now it's just, it really is going back to, like you said, conversation. Technology has benefited us in the real estate industry in some aspects, but in other aspects, it took away some of the old conversation where you have to connect with people. You can't just go online, click, and hey, this all looks good. And then you find out when the process starts, things start changing. And, where we tell people, hey, our stuff isn't going to start changing through this process because we're doing all the work up front. So there's no surprises on the back end because now, so many things have happened in the industry where now there's so many checks and balances that, we now know that can occur on the back end, and we have to have those conversations now to let people know the reason we're doing this, the reason we're doing that is real estate taxes are going to go up, insurance is going to come up, and 9 months to 14 months from now, you're going to be calling and it's like, the mortgage payment went up $150. You told me it was fixed. Yeah, the loan portion of your payment is fixed. Taxes and insurance are not. And those adjustments, and some people our great clients are ready for it.
Yeah.
The ones who didn't want to listen, it's a surprise because why? They bought the house, went add a bunch of new debt, and now this adjustment come and they can't fit it in. And now the panic of, can I hold on to my house comes in, and that was just lack of information on the beginning.
It's like one of the things when people buy new builds, and when we do a new build loan, we will factor in, that property tax. We're not giving you at, just land value. We're giving that to you, whatever you're purchasing, we're doing all of those calculations. Jimmy does all that stuff. But, we're doing all of that so that way you don't get a surprise and your escrows are short. And now you're trying to figure out, how do I pay this extra $500, $600, $700? Because that can, because that can really impact. And that's where we go back to, wanting people to be successful, because we've seen that already. We've been there. We've been on the servicing side. I did collections for a year. That's a grind. And that is those are tough conversations when you have homeowners on the phone crying, because they can't pay their bills. So that's why when we came back into this, I told Jimmy, I said, it has to be different. I will not, I didn't want to compete with those people who were always just lowballing you and doing things underhanded. And it really was just about them. And it wasn't about the borrower or the homeowner, because we got to see a loan from the first stage all the way to where Jimmy worked in foreclosures, in servicing. So we got to see the whole cycle of a loan to now come back, and we're more educated. So now we can educate our buyers, in a better way too.
So that's a great segue, right, into our last question. And that is, when you guys decide that, you know what, we ran this race, we've done our thing, right? What will success have looked like for you?
Oh, man, I don't know. I guess just knowing that what we did impacted others and not just us. I think that's just the best way that we can see, because we're still in contact with a lot of people. We didn't just sell to just strangers, but we sold to family or friends, strangers who became family. So we still keep in touch with seeing those people and their life events, so just being a part of that and seeing others succeed, that really is, I think, just a testament to our success.
Yeah, it goes back to, what we were told growing up, because a lot of the greatest statements that we've gotten, because we were high school sweethearts, a lot of it came together. I mean, we were broke kids going to figure out the world. So, it goes back to, leaving things better than when you came. And so, one of the reasons when the industry had went down and we had to go into corporate America, I wasn't fast to come back, because at the time we know it wasn't as regulated. So it was dog eat dog, it was shiesty, everything else. I watch people get arrested and go to prison in this industry. So that resonated with me of how we wanted to be able to do things and how we wanted our business to operate. And it's just operate at a level to where, hey, it's always going to be at this level, whether you want it or not. And we want to be able to see the wealth of real estate transition to next generations. I think as we come out, we've now been doing it long enough. We've actually started witnessing those cycles happen with some of our clients from 9 and 10 years ago, where they've transitioned to other real estate. Some have become, some have went from purchasing their first home to their second home, and now I deal with them as they're purchasing investment properties and real estate. And that's where I'm seeing that generational wealth start to transition in their life. Those were those clients who listened in the beginning and now have seen, I'm glad you told me get that little beat up house at the start there that I fixed up and kept it, or sold it and upgraded to here, and they've done it multiple times, and now they understand how real estate can work in the long run. Because as they say, most wealth has been generated through real estate. And it has held true for decades. And it's a race, not a sprint in real estate in all ways. And we're just, right now, we're at another cycle, and people need to be ready and educated for it.
Love it.
Hey, y'all. Thanks again for tuning in to the RealT Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.